Of course. We get that in there. Of course, of course. Come on now, stop that. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Zwift Community Live broadcast of the Dig Deep Coaching stage number 4 out on Zwift. We are out here replicating the efforts that the riders are going to be doing for the winning moves in the Tour de France. The riders have gotten out on course. It looks like it is going to be a chill warm-up with about some kicks into some VO2 max as they get their warm-up on. I got Stephen Gallagher with us today. Stephen, how's it going? Good to have you here out on the broadcast coming over from Ireland.
Hello.
The workout looks a little more chill today for stage 4, and we got to get stage 3 up there.
Yeah. So today we're replicating a lead out. Anybody who rode yesterday's team time trial will know that you've probably got pretty sore legs, and think you'll be quite thankful of the sort of chilled start and gradually just moving up the power scale over that sort of 7-minute period at the start after initial warm up. And then obviously we sort of ramp up towards the end, gets a bit harder towards the end. Being a load out man, you've got to get your person into position. Is trying to get sort of maximal efforts, trying to hold the place at the front, and then you do a real hard last effort, and then sort of the last couple of minutes. It's not so much a sprint, but a real long, drawn-out effort. So it's a lot different to what you might be if you were a potential sprinter, where it's just real maximal neuromuscular kicks. But these are sort of more high-end VO2 anaerobic efforts for 1-minute turns, stuff like that. So yeah.
Toward the end of the race, so it looks like toward the middle here, it's just going to be kind of holding ground, making sure that things aren't getting too out of control for the team.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we talk about throughout the broadcast where in the stage that the riders are actually interacting with the workout, because I think that matters a lot to the riders. Like, what part of the stage exactly am I doing at this point? What is this? And even in respects to maybe the kilometers that they're into it, or what terrain that they're tackling at that time. I think that's always really important to the riders, for them to identify it with it. Like, why am I doing this, and what does it actually be for a race application?
Yeah, and I think we've got a bit of data today as well from the stage that we can make a comparison to our obviously our workout today. So obviously after our initial warm up today, we're taking a bit of a chilled start into the stage. Again, not going too deep. Today we're going to look at some of Taylor Phinney's data. Again, we're lucky enough to have a bit of exclusive information from Taylor, who just uploaded really in the last sort of half hour via Training Peaks. Are very kind to let us have such information, and we can see from his first hour of the race, they had a pretty calm and relaxed start. So they really just eased into it. You can see here his first hour of today's stage. He had an average power of 158 watts. For him, he weighs about 83.5 kilos, so that's about 1.89 watts per kilo. And that first hour, I think it was probably a welcome, relaxed start for a lot of riders after a pretty stressful last 3 days with a lot of crashes. Obviously, yesterday's full gas, 40-odd minute team time trial. I think everybody was sort of enjoying a long day. So exactly what we've got today. It's going to ramp up towards it goes along, and it's going to be a lot better as we get along and ramp up into it. So that's why we've got a real chill day. So what you're doing in this initial part after our initial warm-up is replicating really that sort of first hour. And again, you'll see from Taylor's data later on that we kind of ramp up. So as we get to about the sprint at about 100 Ks, the pace is going to start ramping up. That's where you are trying to keep your sprinter in position and maintaining some of the maintaining just some of the proximity to the front of the group. And then really when we get that fourth category climb, you got to start bringing the brake back. Realistically, that's only with about 60 k's to go. Again, you're going up into more VO2 efforts. The efforts are starting to progress a wee bit higher until you get to that last sprint. And if anybody watched today's stage, I think we're going to do a spoiler alert. By the way, we are going to talk about the winner of today's stage.
We should probably let people know we are talking about the tour. And if you haven't watched it yet today and you're like, look, I don't want to hear any of this, we will talk about the results of the Tour de France. So go watch your highlights if you can. Go watch. But this is almost like your immediate afterwards, like analysis within about an hour or two of the finishing of the Tour de France. Yeah. So if you already watched it, great. Yeah. If you're like, whatever, I don't care, I'll watch it anyways. It was a sprinter stage, so maybe just go watch the sprint. I might have even given something away there too. But
well, that's it. So whenever you do watch the sprint, you'll see that it was a bit of a drag race, especially that last kilometre. And for you at the end of today, again, you've got to drop your guy off with about 300 meters to go. So you're at your limit for a good 1 minute before you sort of pull the pin and that's the job off. So and again, by that stage, you'll have done quite a few efforts in around your sort of threshold and VO2, keeping the position. You got to keep your big bullet right for that very end. So
so looking through here, it looks like the warm-up's about halfway over. They're going to be jumping into a couple more 360 watts. To all the riders that are jumping in here for this workout today, one thing we do want to say is that for these specific warm-ups, I think it's just about the high cadence mainly. We say that each time, but we want to make sure that people aren't burning themselves out for the efforts later.
It's like we sort of explained this yesterday, but for anybody who wasn't on the ride yesterday, it's really about getting muscle activation. It's about sort of activating some fast twitch muscle fibers. It's also about getting aerobically a little bit stressed. So it's not about applying a large force or using a high torque to bring around any sort of adaptations. It's about getting your aerobic system going with a high cadence. Obviously raises your breathing a wee bit. So we have all that in the bag before we really kick off. So, it doesn't matter if your legs are feeling a wee bit like lead, maybe a wee bit heavy in this opening section. Usually these small efforts and that sort of first tempo effort, will help you sort of get into the swing of it. So for those of you that maybe did our ride yesterday, I would assume that you're probably going to be a bit sore-legged after it, a little bit heavy. So this is a perfect way to get into it. So I'm not sure if anybody how many was in our ride yesterday, but if you want,
there's
let us know how you feel.
I'm recognizing One Love has been doing, Locks has been doing them a lot. I have also seen, I believe yesterday we did see a couple others here that are here. So Cycling Idiot's in there as well. So I think I saw him around too. So definitely quite a few who are jumping back into the workout here today. Now, if you do have any questions or comments, I am watching the Mixer chat as well as the Facebook post and the Twitter post. If you want to interact with the broadcast, you can do so. Just go ahead and ask questions. I am seeing plenty of questions actually over at Mixer. I'll answer those quickly actually right now. What is this? What's happening right now? This is Massive Multiplayer Game, which is Zwift. Riders are actually riding real bikes right now in order to power these avatars. They're part of a workout right now that Dig Deep Coaching put together. We're on stage 4 of it. It's going to be following the entirety of the Tour de France. So these riders those who are doing every stage are looking to do 21 days total of workouts in order to replicate the winning critical efforts of Tour de France stages. So that's what's going on right now in the world of Zwift. For those of you who do want to interact with the broadcast as well from Facebook or Twitter, you can do so. I'm seeing Will Smith jumping in here. with a comment. Always good to see him. And he's saying, "Evening, fellas. Just spectating as put my shift in this morning. Was tough going, but enjoyed it. All right, good to see you there, Big Mig. And so, if you want to interact as well, like Big Mig did, you can see at Z Community Live or over on the Facebook post. We can bring you in. If you're watching on Twitch or Mixer, just tweet at us at Z Community Live, and we'll go ahead and bring you right into the broadcast within your questions or comments. I do encourage lots of questions or comments on topics that are specific to racing the Tour de France, topics that are specific to the workout today, or any kind of questions you might have for Dig Deep Coaching with Steven. He's here specifically for those kinds of things. So if you do have questions, comments, or predictions, or chat about the TDF, it's also fully welcome today. So now, as we get into this first little section here, 5 minute, 5 minute, 3 minute, 2 minute, and it just ramps up slightly. What are the riders experiencing here? All the way into a threshold effort, actually. Is that the first sprint point, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so that's just us ramping up towards, which I think the sprint point's about 100 Ks. So, generally this is, again, the equivalent of what Taylor was doing at the start of today's stage, where, the assumption was after a hard day yesterday, the riders will want to sort of ease into it today. So that's why this morning or today's stage compared to the example of yesterday, where, we're taking a pretty calm start. And then we're going into the sprint, or what would be trying to hold a position for the sprint. Going in around, I think it was about the 100K mark. I think the sprint today was the sprint for
Let's
the.
take a look real quick. This is today's stage of the Tour de France, and it looks like it's 97.5. Yeah, right around 97.5.
Yeah,
the first
97.5. Yeah. So then we come back down off that, and then we start ramping up again, going through the sort of fourth cat on the Côte de Saint-Jean-la-Potière. Maybe I've pronounced that wrong, but. Something like that.
You get it much better than I do. I think you spent a little bit more time in France than I have, because every time I feel like I sound like an idiot every time I hear you say it. I try them and I'm like, nope, I'm not even close.
Yeah, just something like, and a Frenchman would probably say to me, I sound nothing like it. So anyway, but yeah, then we're going to start ramping up. Generally increases. If anybody's seen today's stage, you'll probably notice that it was a little tight at the end. I think some of the sprinter teams probably left it a wee bit too late. There were maybe, a wee bit of jostling who was going to start riding more, who's going to go up and help. And they were very close to, it not being a bunch sprint. So we're, that's what we're going to replicate as well.
Kind of let them stay out a little bit too long, maybe, and had to put in more work that they maybe wanted to.
Yeah, I think sort of quick step. We're doing the lion's share maybe of the work. Again, I didn't see the full stage, and at the end I think it was only like dimension data and whatnot started coming up at the end when they realised that this group could possibly stay away. Again, sorry for the spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Were you getting a lot of feedback about that? Was there anybody saying, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah. Way you tell me everything what happened, so apologies, but yeah, so a lot of guys left it late today, I think, to pull the brake back. Unfortunately for everybody riding here, we're not going to leave it late, because we're going to start ramping it up. Pretty soon.
How hard?
As it gets into the
for some people who are newer to the zones that they're seeing here, we should probably talk about that a little bit. So when we're seeing the riders in the gray. Whenever they're in this gray area on the left-hand side, that's like a zone 1. What's the usefulness of zone 1? Let's talk about each one of these zones that we're seeing here today as they're going to go through them. Because each zone has usefulness for working out. People think that like the only things that's useful are the really hard efforts a lot of times. You know what I mean? And I think people need to understand how useful recovery is.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll talk about, zone 1, which is generally a low force effort, doesn't strain the aerobic system too much. And really what that's about is generally very low intensity fitness or low intensity training, and is generally used for recovery periods. It's also used for warm-up periods, like what we are seeing. but also is a real area that people don't focus on too much, especially when your training is extremely hard. So the one thing that we have seen is people, they train really hard, but they don't rest hard. So your rest and your recovery, both day to day and also during particular segments of training, has to be prioritized as much as the intensive efforts. And this is where the gray area is. So, looking at that and making sure for anybody that does their own training, or, whenever in a ride like this, you really need to be sort of getting into recovering as much as possible, so you can hit them harder efforts a lot better. And just it's something that people need to be aware of, especially new to the sport, that it's all about the intensity, but actually it's more about the recovery. So whenever you do hit another effort, that you're full gas into it. So but yeah, so that's really zone 1 is pretty important. But the most times you'll see it generally in Zwift is probably during a warm up and a cool down, and also maybe between sort of high intensive efforts. We have a couple of wee recovery periods just today as we sort of ramp up into it. Certainly in that initial phases where we're building up into our threshold, and then we sort of go down again quite low before building up. But when we get to the end, we don't have any of them sort of recovery periods. We're staying quite high as it goes along.
So real quickly, I want to let everybody know that are asking maybe. I mean, I think so for the general population that aren't like extreme cyclists or not extreme, even see extreme cyclists, but enthusiasts or even cyclists at all. They might find that really interesting though, because they're looking for like ways that I can work out, ways that I can get into working out, or ways that I can add things to my workout routine. So this is actually workout mode in Zwift, where people are doing the same workout all together that's been designed by the coach that put it into the game. And now they're all doing their same effort level, same percentage of their FTP, their functional threshold power. And each one of these zones is based on their numbers. It's not based on the numbers you would have to put out to do the Tour de France. It's based on the percentages of the numbers you would have to do the critical move in the Tour de France, based on your FTP, based on your numbers that are about your fitness. And so anybody can do these workouts.
Absolutely.
That jumps into the game.
Actually to refer to Taylor Phinney's today, so we could probably guess that, or I'll take a good educated guess that his first hour of the race today at 158 watts at 1.89 watts per kilo is probably his zone 1, I would assume. Okay, so he's riding at 1.89 watts per kilo in zone 1, 158 watts. For somebody else, that could be their zone 2 or their zone 3. But what we're doing is replicating. Obviously, you don't need to be at that fitness level for him to get the same, potential adaptations. But you're feeling the same stress as what he would do by riding in zone 1. It's just your fitness levels are a lot different. He's probably going a bit faster than us mere mortals. But we can be comparative to it. So I would assume that his, zone 1 would be, between from 0 to probably 210 watts or 220 watts, his fitness. So, so that's really but for a lot of people, it might only be from 0 to 100 watts or whatever. So
all depending on their functional threshold power and what we put into the game for the percentages of that. So, or what they put into the game, what the individual tests with for the game. The game will actually do an FTP test with you and then give you here's your functional threshold power. Now here are all your zones. And then a coach gives you workouts like this inside the game, and boom, you're doing workouts based on your FTP. It's a pretty cool situation. So what's the green all about? There's a blue that we're skipping a lot today. We're not in blue a whole lot today, which is what that's your zone 2. And so why are we skipping blue?
So actually, if you look at a lot of the files from the races, rarely do people actually ride any zone 2 or zone 3. In fact, if we look at the data from the first couple of days, the
do you see your questions, guys? We'll get to them in just a minute. Sorry to interrupt. I do see the questions. Okay. I want to get to them. Dan, Chris, Anybody over at Mix? I am seeing them. We'll get to them in just a minute. Go ahead, Stephen. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
But Zone 2, let's
No,
talk
you're
about
good.
why they're not there a whole lot.
So zone 2, if you anybody, and even anybody who uses their power meter during a race outside that they're doing normally, you actually spend not a lot of time in zone 2, depending obviously on the type of race, but generally there's not a lot of time in zone 2, even in zone 3, because generally it's either on, going into the upper end of tempo, threshold, VO2, or you're freewheeling, you're coasting. In a group as well, you have same here in Zwift, the benefit of drafting, where you bring your effort down. So you actually don't spend a whole lot of time in zone 2 and zone 3. That doesn't mean you don't train them zones, obviously, because for a lot of people that is actually where some of the larger percentages of your training will be. But whenever you're in actual competitions, and again, what we see from guys, and they probably are spending more time in zone 1 than what they are in zone 2. In fact, it's pretty obvious for us that can see the data that that's a cert. So for today, and again, you'll probably see in a lot of the other rides coming in that we aren't spending a lot of time in zone 2. So again, we're just trying to make it as replicated as possible to what the guys are actually doing in the race.
And there's a massive amount of time in zone 3 here, and I think that's specific to the type of rider we're trying to replicate today, right? Like there's certain riders that this is their bread and butter, literally, to keep their contracts, is they need to be able to hold a zone 3 for a really long period of time.
Yeah, and you look at the guys at the front of the bunch today reeling in the brake. So let's think of. I think today a lot of guys doing the lion's share was like Nicky Terpstra. Also, if you see Jay Thompson of Dimension Data on stage 1, actually he released this data via Training Peaks. If you go over to trainingpeaks.com/Tour de France, or go onto their social media, you'll see some of his data from stage 1, where Jay Thompson was one of the main domestics bringing back the early break, and you can see he done a lot of time in around, I think it was about 300 watts. Which for him is his upper limit of probably zone 3, which is amazing for, again, us mere mortals, where that's us probably at our limit. So it's really about just riding at that solid tempo and making sure, like I say, conserving your matches for the end. So
I'm seeing a couple more questions here coming through, and I know they were answered by Dig Deep Coaching. Thanks a lot for being in the broadcast, obviously answering as well. But I want to make sure anybody watching on any other platform that didn't catch the comments on the Facebook post. Chris Bayless here is actually asking, do you guys cover every stage of the tour, or do this alongside every stage of the tour? And yeah, we're going to be doing it through every single one of the stages. So, and maybe even be here on the rest days. We'll see.
Yeah, so if you want to go, if you want to keep up to date with what's going on, obviously, keep checking out the Zwift Community Live page, also on the Dig Deep Coaching Facebook website, on our Twitter. But we also have a sign up where we're keeping people updated with what's going on. We'll also be keeping people updated with prizes that we're going to be doing during the tour and predictions. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of ideas that have been coming to us from people that are partaking in it. So if you go to digdeepcoaching.com/GT 2018, and I think what we'll do is we'll maybe put a link up in the comments. So anybody that wants to sign up, click it. You'll get a race manual which details every stage. It'll details the stress of every stage. It also details the type of rider, the persona that you're going to be. You'll be getting that as a PDF download format. So completely free. Click on it, sign up, and be part of the whole community. So
one more question
I think
coming
we'll
through
maybe try and get the link.
From Dan Fleeman here. Actually, he's saying already starting to hype up the big stages coming up here pretty quick. So stage number 9 in about 5 days. I think it's this Sunday. Stage number 9, I believe.
Yeah,
it's gonna be. Yeah. This is kind of like where everyone thinks it's gonna be mayhem. So
yes,
who do you think are gonna be the favorites on that day, Stephen?
I think It's going to be mayhem. Sunday is going to be complete mayhem. I really cannot wait to watch it. I would be petrified if I was riding it. But I think what's going to happen is these next 2 days, which we'll talk about later on, like, stages 5 and stage 6 are hard, really hard. And I think how people come out of that is going to, dictate a lot how stage 9 is going to be played. I think, from the offset, guys like Nibali, Valverde, they're going to be, they're definitely going to be on the offensive, because they're kind of a wee bit off the pace off the team time trial. They're probably better than everybody else. The other GC guys, Geraint Thomas is, you could almost class him as a cobble specialist at times with his performances and then, the classics at the start of the year. So, these guys are probably the top of the list with regards GC. There's going to be a lot of people be on the back foot. And what is really interesting in this year's tournament, we're starting the mountains a lot later than normal. So this stage 9 on the cobbles, is going to be as important as any mountain stage. And I think by the end of Sunday evening, after the stage, I think a lot of people will hopefully agree with me that, it'll be as important as any of the mountain stages. So I think, Nibali, Valverde, Geraint Thomas, I think a lot of other guys after that are maybe going to struggle a wee bit, but yeah.
The interesting thing about that stage to me is that a lot of these riders, it's just about fitness on the climbs. It's about I know how to climb, and they're used to being attacked on climbs. They're used to being attacked in a way that is always trying to position around those climbs. And this is newer territory during a Grand Tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of them have done Paris-Roubaix, a lot of them have done the cobbles, but in the middle of a Grand Tour and being a GC rider that doesn't contend for the classics, that's a different world. You know what I mean? That's a different world. That's a different way of racing. And so they find themselves in new territory, which is going to make things really, really interesting. And I think, I'm going on maybe a little bit of a limb here, but I think almost more time could be lost on a stage like that than on a big mountain stage where where your fitness is at compared to someone else. It's more of a numbers game. This is like numbers and technique and whether or not you can handle a bike through, if it's muddy, if it's not. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot going on there.
Yeah. The environmental factors, the external environmental factors that will affect your performance are far greater than what it would be in a mountain stage. So, there's a lot of things outside of your control. Like I say, cobblestones, dust, muck, crashes, mechanicals, punctures, all this stuff. It's going to just be off. It's going to be great. And we have a great workout. We've actually got the times of from Greg Van Avermaet on the, I think, 8 or 9 cobble sections that they're going over. We've taken them times and taken the power data from Taylor Finney, who rode in the cobble sections this year, had a great result in Paris-Roubaix. We looked at it, we analysed this file from Training Peaks, so we've taken his power data and percentages and put it into each of the cobble sections.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to be replicating. So, we've got a...
You're replicating an actual effort from Paris-Roubaix this past year? Done that. This year's 2018?
This past year,
That's awesome.
Yeah, this past year. In fact, what we'll maybe do is I'll maybe post up
yellow. No, Greg is Greg in yellow right now.
Yeah.
After today.
Yeah, he's in yellow. Yeah, yeah. He'll probably win someday as well. Oh well, I don't know. Yeah, it would be pretty cool. So, but yeah. So it's going to be a great day. But back to today, we're starting to wrap up a wee. Obviously, the guys going into going up in a wee bit of threshold work. So
they just got done with the sprint, the 350. We were talking about zones because today's focus is a little bit more on a wide variety of zones and spending a lot of time in zone 3. Zone 3 is all about what you can handle for. Really, I mean, if I'm going to a high endurance workout, I mean, really, this is like the upper threshold of my endurance workouts, right? Like I can hold this for, somewhere like. Now this is going to be different for what kind of athlete you're aiming to be, what kind of cyclist you're aiming to be, right? I was looking to be a professional mountain biker, and so I'm looking at somewhere between 1.5 to 3 hour events, and so I want to be able to hold zone 3 for 3 to 5 hours. That was my goal. Like
Yeah.
for my upper peak, but that's like completely the workout that just sharpens that thing. Like that's all it does. You know what I mean? Which this is a little different though. But as far as what zone 3 is, it should be the zone that you can hold for over an hour though. You can't do it all day long, but you can definitely hold it for over an hour.
Absolutely. And it's you know, for those wanting to build endurance that are maybe into, you know, specific endurance events and you haven't got a lot of time to train, you know, riding, you know, the majority of your time in around sort of zone 3, you're going to bring a lot of real cool adaptations compared to spending, you know, hours and hours and hours in zone 2. You know, for me right now, I would, whenever I ride my bike, I don't really race that competitively, but I want to stay fit. I want to be able to stay with a group. I don't want to be dropped by mates all the time. So, you know, I'll spend the majority of my time riding in zone 3. Not so much to, again, win a race, but just so I'm keeping myself aerobically fit. You know, I'm burning a few more calories than normal. It helps boost my endurance a wee bit more.
It's a good way to stay in shape and not have to suffer is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I can eat more chocolate and drink a bit more beer, and I've burnt a few more calories.
Zone 3 on the way home from the pub too, hey? Is that how it's working?
I've done that. But whenever I was racing, you know, I used to spend around a lot of time, November, December, January. You know, one of my aims was always to try and do, you know, 3 hours at 300 watts. So for me, that was about 4.5, 4.6 watts per kilo at that time. And, you know, I remember thinking, that, you know, at that point you were sort of in good shape. You were never going to win a race by just being able to do that. But, you know, you knew that you probably weren't going to get dropped or not too bad. So, Yeah,
you always, there was a lot of confidence whenever you could see those, I wouldn't say big, they're not big numbers, but they're like, it's crazy. It's this crazy effort that you can put in for a long period of time. Those are grinding workouts, though. Those were absolutely like, I'm not looking forward to this workout. All right, so we're moving up. That's zone 3. Now, this threshold that we're seeing here and there, what is that all about? Because we only see a little bit of threshold today. And that's what the yellow number is. It's right around your threshold numbers, what you can do for 1 hour straight. And that's actually what your functional threshold power is based on, your FTP. What all of these zones are based on is your FTP, your 1 hour power. So what's the yellow about today?
So the yellow is just about trying to keep close to the front. As you see coming up here now, it's about us trying to keep position. So whenever you look, you know, anybody who was watching today's stage, especially on the aerial views, have a look at the guys just in front of the sprinters. Have a look at, you know, them positioning the riders like, you know, Niels Pilot for Katusha. See how he was working with, you know, Kittel in that sort of last 10Ks. You know, they're having to surge, you know, around guys, having to put their nose in the wind to keep the, you know, to keep their teammates out. So they're doing these wee surges, you know, for 1 minute, 2 minutes at a time, going up into their threshold, again, just trying to keep guys in position. So that's, you know, what we're trying to replicate a wee bit now. You can't go too deep. Even you as a lead out man, you can't go too deep in this because you've still got to be able to, you know, ride at a real hard level as you come into the finish, which we're starting to ramp up towards here now. So
we are getting a question coming from Chris again. It's great to have you here, Chris. And he's saying that, question here. It's are VO2 max workouts such as the Gorby suitable for general endurance than Nathan and Steven? I would push that over to Steven actually. Are you familiar with the Gorby in game?
No,
so
I don't
it's essentially like it's repeated 5-minute intervals. Like the word, like, I mean, and I'm not talking like kind of 5-minute intervals. It's like, what's your 5-minute best? Go repeat it like 5 times, essentially. So it's 5 times, 5 by 5 with, I think, 5-minute rests in between. So I wouldn't say that's too much of an endurance builder.
No, and to be able to do that, something like that, and to get the benefit from it, you need to be pretty fit already. You know, if you go into a workout like that and your fitness isn't pretty high, you know, you're going to struggle to actually get the gains from it because, you your fatigue between the efforts is going to be too much. The percentage of the decrease in your average power is going to go down and down too much, and you're not going to get the benefit from it, where ideally you should have been probably riding, doing maybe longer periods at, maybe 95% of your threshold, or 100%, even 100% of your threshold for a 5, rather than going up to that top level and starting to die off. I would probably advise being a lot more fitter, as fit as you can be, before hitting something like that. But they really do help whenever you've gone to your limit potentially of your endurance, and you're starting to patter off with your again with your fitness. You're not seeing gains. Then doing something like that is hard. I would probably advise maybe starting 3 minutes, and then starting 4 minutes, and then starting with 5 minutes.
5 is kind of the upper level. That's like, even when I was doing my VO2 max efforts, I would usually be around 3 to 4 and repeat those more times than I would do 5 and repeat it less times, right? So I would do 3x5s but do 15 total or something. 5x5 that's like a once in a while workout where you're like, all right, I gotta really press the hammer here because those are so hard.
It's not nice. They're it's not going to be enjoyable.
No, and it's kind of a tracky workout, I think, out a little bit too. When you're looking at they really focus in on those really high power numbers for short period of times. All right, so now we're jumping over threshold, and looks like we're getting toward the end of the race. Perhaps, is that what's happening here?
Yeah. So we're starting to ramp up the pace. So we're just probably going over that Cat 4, and heading towards the finish. So the pace is obviously ramping up. The break needs to be brought back pretty swiftly, otherwise we're gonna lose out in a potential stage. So last 4Ks, ramp it up, break's coming back. You've got to make sure that your guy is, your man is at the front, and to do that, you've got to start putting the pace up a wee bit and sticking your nose in the wind. So,
last 4Ks, we're looking at that 183 marker, so maybe a little more than that. And this is those final moments where if you're not in right position, your sprinter is out of the race. If I'm not incorrect there.
Yeah. And actually today, with 5 kilometers to go, there was a big crash. Actually, if anybody seen it. I think we might even have a little bit of data there from that.
I think that's the one at the 2:15 mark, maybe. I'm trying to look through these files here, see if I can find that one. I believe this is it, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so you can see where the break in his actual the stop of his power was. That's pretty much where the crash happened. So in the 2 minutes leading up to the crash, he was riding at 258 watts average, with a 3.09 watts per kilo. He had averaged 51.8 maxed out at 64 k's an hour. So he was riding at over 52, 53 k's an hour when Taylor crashed. I don't know how bad he was. He held up in the crash. So that was with 5 k's to go today. Unfortunately, that was the end of his stage, and he rolled in after it. But so that was.
You can see it get pretty chill toward the end there. You see at the
just towards the
other file. This is the full file, right? Correct, that we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's the full. Yeah, that's the full stage.
And it got really intense over that climb. You can see that, and then a couple of intensities there toward the end, and then it just peters off completely, like nothing's even happening, rather than a big surge. So he's unfortunately
just his race was over after the crash, but mustn't have been nice crashing at 53 odd kilometers an hour with 5 k's to go.
No, not at all. Not at all. With 5, but they're within the time. They're within the. Where no time was lost at that point, correct? 5K?
No.
Really?
No. So no, 3Ks to go is whenever is the cutoff, and I believe if anybody watched it again, spoiler alert, Rigoberto Urán was caught up behind it, and the team brought him back. Unfortunately, Taylor wasn't part of that.
The team brought him back, got him back in within 5K.
Yeah, they were a good, 150 meters, 200 meters off the bunch when the bunch was riding at, 55, 60 k's an hour. So anybody, go check out the last 5Ks, and
Well,
you'll
I'm going to
see,
check that out. I'm definitely going to check that out.
EF education. Yeah,
That
you
looks.
could see they had about 5 teammates bringing him back. So and they got him on with, must have been maybe 3Ks to go, 2Ks to go. You can see him just getting on the tail end of the bunch. So I think there's a few nervous people in the EF education team car whenever that happened. So.
Rena Marie, good to have you here. Rihanna Marie over at the Mixer channel saying that you love Zwift. Hey, good to have you here. Usually, if you're unfamiliar with what we're up to right now, usually we do races here on the Mixer channel, but just so you know, today we're doing workout mode, looking at Tour de France type efforts that these riders are doing, and you can join these as well if you are a Zwifter. You can jump into these. I did a reminder yesterday. I'm going to do that reminder again today, as the riders are heading into the final sprint for the lead out. They're practicing being a lead out rider today for a sprinter, and so that's why you're seeing these big surges. What are they doing during these big surges right now for their lead out?
Yeah, so they're giving it gas, trying to get to the front, and at this point they should be right at the front, holding position. It's going to be coming close with about 2Ks to go. We're going to be coming. We're only probably a minute and a half away from the kilometer to go. Once we get to that last point, then we are full tilt. 1 minute going into your sort of anaerobic zone. You've got to leave it all out there, make it a sustained effort. Don't sprint at the start, but make it sustained. You want to be starting to tie up, your legs want to start to tie up in that last 20 seconds. Don't start tying up in the first 20 seconds, otherwise your sprinter is going to have to come around you too early. So make that effort consistent here in this last big 1 minute. Okay, so don't go too deep too early, but make sure that you've still got a lot left for that last 20 seconds.
And now we are seeing, it looks like 420 watts for that last minute. So it's going to be well over. What do we call that zone? We've got zone 4, then zone 5. I mean, essentially. And then what are we heading into for zone 6?
It's going into sort of anaerobic. Basically what, last one, big effort. This is it now. So, yeah. Everybody dig in. So this is an effort that really you can only sustain for a minute, maximum, maybe 2 minutes, depending on how your fitness is. So, you want to be giving it a bit of gas here now. So.
Yeah, we are seeing the riders are absolutely killing it now. As you can see, go coming from One Love here. I wonder what their heart rates are up to. I wish we could see some of the riders' data themselves. Now 6.8 watts per kilogram though coming from One Love, 6.3 on my current threshold. Yeah. So these guys are really flying. A lot of pain here at this point, but at the same time, it's a very specific effort. It isn't drawn out all over.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but this it's definitely more, like I was saying, specific. It's not this general fitness, I would think, today so much. For the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very different to what we're going to be doing tomorrow as well. So tomorrow's going to be another kettle of fish completely. So. Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to chat with everybody about real quickly was you can join these workouts if you are a Zwifter, if you're just jumping into Zwift. Zwift does have a free trial if you want to download it for those who might be new. And if you open up their companion app, there's 2 different apps on the app stores, both on the Play Store as well as on the Apple Store. But you go into the Play Store and you type in Zwift Companion, and you'll get the Zwift Companion app, which will allow you to join any events right now. So you can also join events in the app itself if you are using Mac or PC. But I went ahead and signed up for all the Dig Deep coaching events that are listed still. I think we have them listed all the way through Sunday. At this point. So go ahead and jump in there and join the events if you're looking to ride around this time. There is another one that is specific for the Australian riders as well, isn't there?
Yeah. So it's in a different time zone. I think it's, you need to check on again on the app that you'll see all the time zones there for those in particularly probably the eastern states of Australia is around their evening time. So for the eastern seaboard there of Australia. So yeah, for anybody there that certainly get stuck into that. So.
Yep, gotcha. So if you do want to jump into these, today we did the now what's this ramp down at the end here? Is this something? This is something new.
Yeah, so I think I've changed up the cool down a wee bit. So it's just sort of cooling down gradually instead of going down like a brick and staying down. So
gotcha.
especially after a sort of a bit of a harder effort at the end, just gradually bringing the heart rate down a wee bit. So.
Gotcha. Right on. But we do have some information from yesterday's stage, actually. While we are going through the cool down here, we've talked about all the zones, really, and what they're being used for. Well, I don't think we talked about too much about Zone 5 and Zone 6, so maybe we'll get to those tomorrow. We'll go a little bit more into that, but make sure to tune in for more on analysis of the workout zones tomorrow. And also, guys, like, if you have questions or comments, make sure to shoot them at us on Twitter. Shoot them at Dig Deep Coaching, at Zwift Community Live. I'll be able to pick those up, and we'll bring them to the broadcast specifically. You do it during or even before the broadcast. We'll be able to pick those up. We'll write them down. We'll bring them to the broadcast so that you guys can get that interaction and get answers. And then if you can't watch live, you can come back and watch the VOD, which are all available on YouTube, Mixer, Twitch, or Facebook. This one might be re-uploaded, as we had replays from Go Gara stuff at the beginning, so we're probably gonna have to re-upload it. We keep replays in the preset for Zwift Racing, and so I hit the replay button, and I had left some replays that were sitting in there, and there's like a cool little button that'll shoot any replay up anytime you want. And while I was going live, I hit the button, and boom, PUBG's on the front page. Oh, great. That's just fun. But looking through here, Tour de France Stage 3 analysis from yesterday. What are we looking at here?
Yeah. So this is, we've done a full analysis that's going to be out on Training Peaks today. So you check it out later on this evening. So we've done a full analysis on two riders. That's Simon Clark from AF Education and also from Matt Heyman. So we've taken a snapshot here of really their power and looking at some of the critical points. This is one of our coaches, a guy, Philip Digner. He's always making us, helping us do these graphics to digest the information. If we start with Matt Heyman, look at his peak power. His 2-minute peak power was right from the get-go. 7.15.
Why do you think that was? That's like... the starts are just nuts.
Yeah, the starts are nuts. But again, we talk about it in our analysis. Is that the tactics of the distribution of power between each rider is really specific and very much worked on. So both him and Simon probably had a bit of a similar role in the sense that they needed to use all their energy up early. And that first sort of couple of kilometers as they came out of the stage yesterday was on a 2% drag, quite a long drag. Somebody like Matt Heyman, you get him at the front in that there, you get him to use up a lot of his matches earlier on, and he's going to be sitting at 7.15 watts per kilo for 2 minutes. So yeah, that was a real big effort for him right from the get-go, and it seemed to have worked because they only finished 9 seconds down in fourth place. So yeah, and you can see here the first 21.5 kilometers was their hardest parts of the race. So again, Simon Clark was averaging 364 watts, 5.78 watts per kilo. I think his normalized power was about 388, about 6.1 watts per kilo. Again, pretty impressive stuff. Again, same for Matt Heyman, 394 watts for 23 minutes. I mean, yeah. After already have done a 2-minute, full gas VO2 effort at 7.15 watts per kilo right at the start, and then he's got to ride for another 20 minutes at 5 watts per kilo. That's just crazy. So
So this is the team time trial for those of you not knowing what happened yesterday during the stage. So part of the reason that they're kicking right from the gun like that too is they eat, like Steven is saying, they each have a role that they are going to be playing in the team. Do you know if any of these guys, if either Matthew or Simon stayed to the end? If they were if they were with their team to the end?
No. So Simon, he pulled the pin with about 12 kilometers to go, and then Matt pulled the pin with about 10 kilometers to go. But bear in mind, this wasn't them getting dropped. This was them tactically, going to the plan, that they used up all their energy to make sure that they get their team as fast as possible towards the end. So that was very strategic, and how they distributed the effort and when they were gonna empty their tank for the rest of the guys to get that fastest time, because it was just 4 guys coming across the line was taken for the team for the stage time. So
looking through, see if we got some more comments here as we're getting through here. And the warm up is the same gradual increase as well. Now Chris is saying, let's see here, what's Chris getting at? Chris has got a lot of comments actually here, I think. Talking about doing some over-unders. Was hard effort, though. Let's see here. Just wondering what I should concentrate on to raise my FTP, i.e. sweet spot, or other workouts would you suggest? That is a great question, actually. That's actually one of the main questions that you get a lot of times when you are, new athletes are coming to you for coaching.
Yeah.
So, Steven, I mean, you can find a lot of this information over at Do Deep Coaching, but what's a quick... quick idea here.
Sweet spot is a great place to train. Especially if your fitness is pretty good. Again, it depends on the duration of the time you spend in sweet spot is dependent on, obviously, if you're at the top end of your fitness or your low end of the fitness. For me.
So what do you mean by sweet spot? I mean, Chris might understand what sweet spot means. Others might be like, "What do you like?" Even I it's one of those words that's kind of like has an assumption of everybody knows what it means in the cycling world, but maybe it's kind of like everyone has a little bit different definition of it. So, go ahead, Steven.
And I think for a lot of people, it does mean slightly different things. For me, it means sort of your effort that you can sustain whenever you're at a really good fitness for possibly an hour and a half. That's the top limit of it. For the guys that are really fit, even 1 hour, 20 minutes. So where your FTP is probably around, obviously, the hour zone. So it's just slightly under a threshold, a bit more. According to your FTP, it's around maybe, 90%, 92%, something like that, or 92 to 95%. But it's something that most people should be working on, certainly in the early phases of getting race fit. And whenever I say that, I mean 8 weeks out, maybe 10 weeks out before sort of a big objective. You can start building a lot of these blocks in, and to really help push up the FTP. But the biggest benefit that I find of riding at sweet spot is that it can help push your threshold up a wee bit, but it also doesn't bring around the same fatigue as what it would do if you were riding right at your threshold. And that means the next day you can do maybe hard VO2 efforts, you can do anaerobic efforts, and that's the real beauty, I feel, of riding at sweet spot. So, So the answer is yes. It's good.
I think I think for some reason the ramp ups had a mistake in them, and the riders are riding at zero. They're riding at 0 watts for some reason. I don't think they need to finish these. Someone's messing with my ERGR. They're getting some comments here. They're all having a little laugh about it and some fun with it. But I think we've got to look back at the ramp ups there. I think the riders are actually. I can do that. They were saying, I can do 0 watts. No problem. I can do that all day long. No worries. So I think they could probably end their... Well, they probably want to complete, so they're going to... You can get glitches like that. Yeah. Gotcha there. Gotcha. So, all right. So what are we looking forward to then? What are we looking forward to tomorrow?
So tomorrow, in fact, the next 2 days is going to be very different to what we've done so far. We're into 2 hilly stages. What we've done is I've taken a lot of the Strava times from the categorized climbs. Tomorrow, actually for the whole stage tomorrow, I think there's maybe 5 or 6 climbs in the total stage, and it's a hard finish as well. It's an uphill finish. It's a similar stage was there in 2013, and it was a lot of splits. So tomorrow we're actually going to replicate the times that we've seen from Strava. We'll go through it in tomorrow's stage, and I think we're going to copy about 3 or 4 climbs for the exact duration of what what the guys will be doing tomorrow. And again, it'll be more into longer sustained efforts in around threshold, and going up into VO2. Tomorrow you're going to be a climber, so you're going to be going for potentially for the win. You're going to be needing to be at the front and being aggressive on the climbs as well. So you're going to be replicating some aggressive efforts on climbs. So yeah, so this is tomorrow. It's going to be a real hard stage tomorrow. So it's going to be great to watch.
Anybody? Stage 5 actually. We don't have the graphic changed up top, but this is what we're looking at for stage 5 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this is a much different effort than what we were looking at the last few days. I mean, everything's been fairly flat up until this point, and so predictions. Whew, I think the break is going to stick, and it's going to be somebody I don't know. To be honest, like I think the break is going to stick, and it's going to be somebody that I'm unfamiliar with from a pro team that's given the reins to go ahead and grab a W. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody going see these KOM points aren't big enough. I don't think that the KOM guys are going to start really caring at this point too much. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some early. You always get that person who's going for the early KOM points, and they contend for it. But then the real climbers come out later when you start hitting the 2s and the 1s over and over and over again, and they start taking bigger points and bigger points, and the early break winners that did get the KOMs end up getting eaten up by that later by the real climbers, and so
that's right.
So I think it's going to be and a great job to them. It's just they may not have they're looking to be a breakout ride. I think the breakout rides have an opportunity here that they'll have a go ahead from the teams. I might be wrong, but I can't give you a name. I can't give you a name.
Well, I mean, today they nearly messed up slightly because they give them a wee bit maybe too much reins. And if it was in a real, hillier stage like it is today, there was a bigger possibility that they might have stayed away. I think the stage finish tomorrow, anybody that has been to Quimper or has been around Brittany, you'll understand the roads that they're riding on. It's just up and down. There's going to be no flat tomorrow. And somebody like Darrell Impey, is a good sprinter who can get over these climbs really well. He won a couple of stages there. I think was it in the Dauphiné, maybe he won a couple of, or maybe it was the Tour of Switzerland, I forget, on similar terrain, winning bunch kicks from a sort of reduced peloton after a hard day. Somebody like him would be good. Whether he's to go off and go for a stage himself, it might be hard, but for me, it is going to be a bit of a drawn out sprint.
Who was your prediction then? You had a prediction? Was that somebody?
So maybe Darrell Impey or Boasson Hagen.
Okay.
Yeah, or Boasson Hagen.
Okay.
Christoph. How many people can I pick? Can I pick?
I think you just get one. I think there's only one stage winner. I think there's only one stage winner on the day. But looking through here, I'm seeing. Chris is saying sorry. England's playing in the semifinals. So sorry, I don't think many Englishmen will be here for the live stream somehow. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people have been showing up even though, and they watched this and that at the same time. It's interesting how many screens people put up at the same time.
That's right.
Dion Smith maybe on the climbs, Ken Holly is saying. So.
Not sure and Dion done really good today. Dion was, I think, top 10 on the stage today. King of the Mountains jersey. I actually think Dion might try and go in the early break tomorrow to get some points. That's Ken down in New Zealand who maybe knows Dion. I don't know, but
Andy Harrison says my prediction is England. I said the other day in a tweet, I was like, man, you guys are always all about this coming home. Why are you always leaving? Like, just
Don't start. Don't start. You're
Why
gonna
are we
get a lot
always
of trouble.
coming home? Just why don't you stay home? Like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then we got another prediction
Yeah.
coming from Dan Fleeman here. Sagan for tomorrow. Nice, good prediction there. That's always a good prediction. That's actually, you know, if we're gonna go for a big hitter and not a breakaway, that's actually,
Yeah.
I think that's a really good prediction as well. Sagan for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, he's proven himself on this
Yeah.
kind of a course time and time again.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's punchy toward the end, but I don't know. It doesn't finish on a climb, does it? Oh yeah, it does. It does.
It's a
finish.
bit of it's a wee bit of yeah. So I think
Maybe Philippe Gilbert even too.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, that's
Yep.
kind of his kind of a
Yep.
puncher course.
Or
Is Rodriguez in the
Greg
race?
Van Avermaet,
I mean,
yellow jersey, Greg Van Avermaet. I mean,
Yeah.
this is his.
Actually,
this is his
being in
training
being in yellow too, might be the way to
That would
go.
be a good win.
I'm still
would
gonna
be a
go
good win.
with the easy pick because I don't have to say a name. No name breakout. No name breakout ride is gonna take it.
Yeah.
I'm just,
No
okay.
name. So
Fine.
you-
I, you know, I've followed Dan so far in all of his predictions. I have faith. I have full faith in the flea. Full faith in the flea.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, though. We'll see how it goes. Keep your predictions coming, even after the broadcast. I want to hear them on Twitter. I want to hear them in the Facebook post, and we'll talk about them tomorrow because it's always fun to see who is able to draw the right straw. You know, so we got you on record. We got Sagan. We've got Dion Smith. We've got you were saying Van Avermaet. Is that your pick, Van? Is that your pick? Who's your pick?
Yeah, let's go for Van Avermaet. Let's do the
It's a good
jersey
pick.
one.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick. I think it's a good
let's go
pick.
for it.
It's a good pick.
Yeah.
I've proven myself also. Got it right every time so far, Fleeman saying so. And actually, we had the prediction on Gaviria. So we're like, I think, going 75% right now. So we're doing pretty good. We predicted
Doing
BMC.
pretty good.
We got Gaviria twice.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, not too bad.
Yeah, you should be working for the bookmakers. Yeah.
Everybody open up their wallets. Okay, no, just kidding. Don't open up your wallets. Do not do that. Do not trust us at all. I made you look good today. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that, Lee. Appreciate that. All right, tomorrow. This is tomorrow's stage. We're looking at over here. Show up for the workout. You're
Yep.
looking for a good workout. That's what it's going to be. That was Dig Deep Coaching stage number 4 that we were covering today. Stage number 5 coming at you tomorrow. Steven, thanks a lot. I appreciate all your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So yeah.
Cheers. All right. So that was our Dig Deep Coaching, obviously, stage number 4. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that follow button, all the places that you like to consume online streaming media. That would be our Mixer channel, Zwift Community Live over on Mixer, our Facebook, our YouTube, where our VODs will be, or our Twitch channel. As always, great job to all the riders out there. Great job showing up for a good workout. And all you who are showing up consistently day in and day out, if you did miss one, you can head on over to digdeepcoaching.com and sign up for their newsletter about this specific thing. Sign up for the program, and they will give you an opportunity to redo the workout if you did miss this one. All right, everybody. Great job out there. And as always, right on.